Welcome to Timeless Story, where every tale is a journey beyond time. Ready to dive in? Let's go.
One day, in a luxurious room with royal sofas and a warm fireplace whose light danced in the space, a wall clock was ticking, filling the silence with anticipation. Trump Hotep was lounging on a sofa, holding a teacup in his hand, and Nethan, with eyes full of curiosity, was sitting beside him. I, Johnson, was ready to tell them the story of part 4 of Prophet Moses, peace be upon him. I said to them, "Are you ready?" This story was full of miracles, confrontation, and courage. Trump Hotep suddenly raised his head and asked in astonishment, "Wait, Johnson, are you saying God told Moses to stand against Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, with just a simple staff? That's insanity." I laughed and said, "Yes, Trump, but this staff wasn't just an ordinary piece of wood. Sit down, and I'll tell you what happened when Moses and Aaron went to guide Pharaoh." The story began when God had given Moses and his brother Aaron the mission to go to Pharaoh, a king who thought he was a god and that no one could stand against him. In Egypt at that time, magic and sorcery were like a storm. Pharaoh's sorcerers were masters of this craft. With their magic, they stole people's minds and enchanted their hearts, as if they were playing with people's thoughts. They were certain that no one could surpass them. But God decided to defeat them with their own magic. He wanted to show that divine power was stronger than any trickery. Moses, with a faith as steadfast as a mountain, didn't see any obstacle as too big in his path. God had given him 2 miracles, a magical staff that held divine power within it, and a hand that could radiate a great light. Now, imagine Pharaoh on his golden throne with pride pouring from his eyes. Moses and Aaron stood before him. Moses threw his staff to the ground, and suddenly a gigantic dragon rose from the earth. The crowd froze in shock. Pharaoh was stunned for a moment, but his pride wouldn't let him back down. He said mockingly, "Is that it? Don't you have any other miracles?" Trump Hotep interrupted me and said, "Wait, a simple stick turned into a dragon? How is that even possible?" Nethan added excitedly, "Yeah, and then what happened? Did Moses and his companions survive, or did Pharaoh kill them all?" I smiled and said, "Be patient, we'll get to that." Pharaoh thought this was just a magic trick and that Moses would surely be defeated by his sorcerers. But Moses put his hand into his robe, and when he pulled it out, a white, dazzling light, like a shining star, radiated from his hand. The light was so powerful that it seemed to shame the sun. Everyone's eyes were dazzled. Even Pharaoh, who always considered himself an unrivaled god, felt his throne tremble. But instead of surrendering, he went to his courtiers and cunningly said, "This Moses and Aaron are sorcerers. They want to drive you out of your land with their magic. What's your opinion?" The courtiers, who were now terrified, said, "Keep Moses and Aaron here and gather the best sorcerers from all over Egypt." Pharaoh, who felt like he was drowning in a whirlpool, accepted this idea and ordered the skilled sorcerers to be brought. The day of the great competition arrived. It was a festival day, a field packed with people, with the sun shining brightly in the middle of the sky. The sorcerers arrived with their ropes and staffs, with a pride that screamed from afar. They said to Pharaoh, "If we win, what reward will you give us?" Pharaoh promised wealth, status, and a life full of luxury. The sorcerers, filled with motivation, said to Moses, "Will you start, or should we?" Moses, who considered their magic insignificant, said, "You start." The sorcerers threw their ropes and staffs, and suddenly it seemed as if the ground was covered with snakes. The people shouted, but it was just an illusion. Moses felt a moment of fear, not from the sorcerers, but from the thought that the people might be deceived by this display. God told him, "Don't be afraid, you will prevail. Throw your staff." Moses threw his staff, and that same enormous dragon, like a storm, swallowed all the magical ropes. That dragon was so terrifying that even the sorcerers froze in place. The sorcerers, who had now seen the truth, fell to the ground and prostrated, not for Moses, but for the God of Moses and Aaron. They said, "We believe in the Lord of Moses and Aaron." Pharaoh was consumed with rage. He shouted, "What? You believed in Moses without my permission? You must have conspired with him." He threatened to cut off their opposite hands and feet and hang them on palm trees. But the sorcerers, whose hearts were now illuminated with the light of faith, fearlessly replied, "Do whatever you want. We believe in the God of Moses. God is greater and more enduring than you." Pharaoh, in his extreme anger, ordered their execution, and they were killed and went to paradise. Pharaoh was caught in a dilemma: either accept the truth and lose his throne, or continue with oppression and defiance. Guess what he chose? The path of falsehood. After consulting with his vizier, he said to the people of Egypt, "Moses and his people want to take your land." And he increased his oppression, from killing the sons of the Israelites to tormenting the people. Moses' followers came to him crying and sought help for Moses. Moses calmly replied, "Seek help from God and be patient. The earth belongs to God, and the final victory will belong to the righteous." Pharaoh and his courtiers, who had now been thoroughly defeated, decided to kill Moses and his friends to preserve their throne. But they didn't know that no plan could stop God's will. God revealed to Moses to leave Egypt with the Israelites at night. When Pharaoh heard this news, he pursued them with his army, which numbered several thousand. Trump Hotep and Nethan asked excitedly, "Wow, Johnson, so did Moses and his companions survive, or did Pharaoh kill them all?" I laughed and said, "Be patient, guys. The story isn't over yet, but that's enough for today. I'll tell you the rest of the story later." Hey, thanks a lot for sticking with us. If you liked the story, hit that subscribe button. And yeah, feel free to share it with your friends too. Drop a comment. We really want to hear what you think. Catch you in the next episode.